All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me. Very nice to have you here with me on this Monday. My name is Jason Levine, aka Beetlejace, and very lovely to be chatting and talking with you and showing you stuff around Audio 101. We are at episode 15 today, and the topic is the art of the remix, mixing vocals and some other things. So we're going to focus a little bit today on remixing and largely around vocals and background vocals. This is a song that I've played on here before. It's actually a song of mine that is already commercially available. This is a song of mine called The Toot Toot Monster, available now on Spotify. And as the title suggests, remixing is a huge part of, especially today, in trying to maximize monetization, but really, especially if you're making music in a world where we no longer download MP3s anymore for purchase because everything is streaming for the most part, it behooves you to go back and occasionally revisit things and remix them and make new versions of them. Once a good song, always a good song. Once a almost there song could be even better with the remix. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And this track here, which came out in March, I wound up, as the album title suggests, it's just piano, vocals, and drums. I wound up, prior to that, though, overdubbing all kinds of other instruments and background vocals and making it a very thick production, only to realize that, you know what, I kind of wanted it just the basics. So that's it. So this, in and of itself, is a really going to sound like a totally different mix anyway, but we're going to kind of leverage this idea of remixing to bring new life to it and really make it sound different. That's the goal with this. So we may not finish this today, but we are going to spend a little more time on working with the background vocals and making those sound fantastic. And the lead vocals, obviously, that's what delivers the message. That's what has to really sound great. And with very little effort, you can make background vocals and things sound fantastic. Let's kick it in and see what we have here. So now, again, this isn't mixed at all. This is, or I should say, this doesn't really have any effects or processing. I've got a couple things. So let's take a quick listen here. I'll kind of balance things as we're going for just a moment and just kind of hear what this all sounds like before we begin the process of tweaking and mixing. May seem obvious, but you got to listen to the whole thing somewhat before you start to, redo it all. It's just a good idea to kind of hear what it sounds like raw before you start processing and affecting it. Now, just to give it a little more oomph on stream, I will do what you've seen me do many times here, which is to simply add a little bit of dynamic limiting here. All right, let's pump this to around -2-ish. It's good enough. We don't need 10 dB of gain. Let's give it about 8. And that should be enough. Let's take a listen here and see what we've got.
1, 2,
maybe some more.
4.
That's pretty good. Now again, I'm going to be rebalancing as we're listening here, okay?
Toot Toot Monster, were you eating some broccoli? Did you have some cheese? Were you eating burritos? Were they filled with beans? If you are what you eat, from your head down to your feet,
Hear
baby,
those?
maybe why not even onions make me cry like Toot Toot Monster?
Let's kill those for a second.
What did you eat? You're tooting like crazy.
You can see that's the live vocal with piano there.
Toot Toot Monster.
Let's just bring those drums in so we can kind of balance those a
Passing
little bit.
gas. You're tooting like crazy from
So
your
the rest
big
of the drums
old
down
rump. If you are what you eat, from your head down to your feet, baby, that maybe why not even
I just want to see. I don't think I have any automation on there.
onions make me cry like the Toot Toot Monster. The Toot.
Let's just hear the piano and the drums. just for the heck of it, for right now, I'm just gonna stick a little bit of. Oh, that could be fun. Let's try that. That might be kind of heavy, but let me see. One of my newer favorite plugins here. Smasher. Why not? It's not really smashing it. And again, I haven't even tried any of these yet. Vulgar. Let's see what that is. That's done. Oh, I see. Kind of dirty. You hear that? Oh, I see. It's got some distortion characteristic.
Oh, no, Toot Toot Monster, the Toot Toot Monster, the Toot Toot Monster, don't be a Toot Toot Monster.
Yeah. Okay. So I got to play it back a little bit more. All right, let's keep going here. Just work on the balances a little bit more. This is a little too distorted, so go to something different here. Yeah, actually, I'm just going to take this off. I don't want this on there now. This is just to kind of make it a little bit louder overall, just so, you know. Oh, it is kind of nice, though. Kind of, you know, heck with it. I like it. Changing my mind. Now, again, there's no EQ or anything on these yet. We'll get to that, okay? Ooh, it's really distorted. Kind of like it. Kind of works. Let's hear the bass in there. Now, when you're doing kind of doing a levels mix like this, I'm just trying to balance things so I can kind of get an idea of what they're going to sound like all together, right? Why am I not hearing that Rhodes? Oh, I didn't bring it up until here, I see. Interesting. Why is the Rhodes all the way on the right? I see. I was going for like a stereo piano thing here. What's up, Magenta X?
And their nostrils are pinched. When will this all stop? The solution's a cinch. If you are what you eat from your head down to your feet, baby, that may be why not even onions make me cry. And if you're gonna feed your face, you'd better take a minute and think about just what it is that you are putting in on like the Toot Toot Monster. The Toot Toot Monster. The Toot Toot Monster. Don't be a Toot Toot Monster. Toot Toot Monster, don't be a Toot Toot Monster.
Okay. All right. So that's good enough for a little sort of rough balancing there. So the first thing that I want to actually start with are the background vocals, as I mentioned. And if we just go ahead, you'll see that I've got all of these. Now, knowing what you know from previous Audio 101s, you can see that all of these are submixed. They're all going to a background vocal bus. So they're all grouped together, going to this bus here. So I can use one fader to rule them all, one fader to control them all. And again, they're just currently, they're currently just being fed into this studio reverb with a 5,005 second decay. That's what's giving them that kind of very rich, lush, echoey sound. You can also see the high frequency cut here. I've got it set to around 8K. So it's preserving a lot of the air, right? A lot of that vocal presence, potential sibilance. There isn't any. 8K, nice and airy, that's enough. If you set that high frequency cut to, something like 12K or 14K, where I talk about a lot, like vocal shimmer. The problem is that with reverb, if you let the reverb decay up in those high frequencies, you tend to get these very sort of accentuated, like super wispy, super high end. It's not. It can be okay. It can be very cool. And in fact, there was a song years ago, a George Michael song, which had, it's not like it's my favorite song at all. It's not, but vocal production wise, it's one of my favorite tracks for like vocal production. It's called Jesus to a Child, and it's from the mid 90s. And when he's singing, they've got this amazing, I don't remember offhand. I seem to recall it being a plate of some kind of plate reverb emulation. A lot of high end, a very high frequency cutoff. So they're probably preserving up to around 10K or more. And when he sings anything that has any kind of S or any kind of subtle, kind of sound, it just, but it's kind of a slow ballad. So it works, they're using the decay of the reverb to keep you interested, to keep you engaged. And it's brilliantly done. It's a brilliant vocal. And he's an amazing vocalist. What I want to do is I want to hear each individual background vocal. So I'll do what I often do when I'm kind of A-Bing things, is I'll just put the multitrack and the mixer side by side. And these are, once again, these are totally dry, minus the studio reverb. And I can kind of click this in and out. The key thing here is that there's no equalization, there's no compression, there's no nothing on these just yet. And they're all currently in mono. Part of why they also sound so lush. I've talked about this a lot on the stream. You can really make things sound huge and lush and beautiful, especially background vocals when they're mixed in mono. This is not something that's done very regularly anymore, especially when you have them. You can see I've got 5 background vocals. That's a perfect reason to do a very nice stereo spread. And I will, very likely for this. Sometimes I even double. I'll do a stereo and a mono and kind of just combine them, and they just sound huge. This is a similar technique with kind of doubling in unison was used by many groups, Journey among them, Queen, the Beatles before all of them, to really give this very super lush, massive background vocal sound, even though it's, in this case, all me. So let's take just real quickly. So here's all of them together. And let me kick the reverb off, for just a second so you can just hear them dry. Take a listen. Down here, I'm going to flip that up too. And I'm also just going to turn off the automation for now. I'm not erasing any of the automation. I'm just disabling it because we don't need to hear it right now. Wall of sound, indeed, grungy. And that's, that was the key to Phil Spector's Wall of Sound, was that it was all these mono images, largely put in different reverb echo chamber environments with different levels of decay. All those Ronettes and early 60s girl groups. That was the signature, having this wall of sound, which was, again, mono. So let's take a quick listen here. Okay. Not bad for dry, right? And if you listen to these individually, and this is again natural blending. So as I say, when you listen to these one by one, and we're going to do this now, and I'll start to kind of go through and EQ some of these as well. You may find little imperfections here and there, but what happened as I sang it, is that I'm blending with myself, and you're finding those sympathetic resonances, which is what makes it sound so huge, and particularly in mono. Right. Now you can hear it's not, it's not 100% perfect. It's a little nasally and a little shaky. But that's okay because again, as I add the second, and I didn't label these, which I'm sure there's some doubling in here too, not just all harmony. And you can hear right there. I found that resonance and I just locked it in, and suddenly it just all comes together. All right. I mean, you just kind of find it and you get in there, and it's amazing what happens without even auto-tune. But individually, they kind of sound, all right. So, but mono, of course, really masks all that. Here, let's see what these three sound like together. Oh, that's a really high one, I think. Okay. And you can see like the last target note. I kind of miss it. I can't fake missing it now. But I didn't hit it, But altogether, it's just masked, because it's close enough. And that's kind of the brilliant thing of the voice, is that if you can do that. I screwed that one up entirely. That one sounds okay. That's pretty good. All right, let's try this one here. A little bit of bass there. See, I don't normally do bass vocals for backgrounds because it tends to get a little bit in the way of bass guitar. But for this, it works perfectly because the bass is playing these very staccato, short notes, and this just kind of punctuates it a little bit more. Now, I think all of these are the... I don't know if I sang the same parts everywhere, because I was just going to label these low, mid, high. Let's see. So there I'm going wah. Okay, let's see if I did bass here too. No, I didn't do the bass there. Here's this the bass one. Yeah, see? So yeah, they're not all consistent. So that's okay. I don't need to label them that way. I was just seeing if my OCD was needed here, and it's not. All right, so one of the first things we're going to do when I listen to this, if I actually look at this file in the editing view here. So it's warm. There's not there's no noise or anything that we have to worry about. Although you can actually see that I was actually just doing it right in the room here, probably sitting exactly where I am. I don't even think I was standing when I sang these. So there's some little bit of room ambience in there. In fact, here, let me see if I let's take a listen. You can see there was something, probably a computer fan or a hard drive. You can kind of see right there at around, what is that? 125, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could take it out, it's not getting in the way of anything, okay? Now, the thing is that because we've got stacks of these, it is possible that whatever kind of resonance going on back there could potentially, maybe get in the way. You can see it's consistent across all of the tracks here, but so that the nice thing there is that I could actually use the same profile if I wanted to. Yeah, I mean that's minus 39. Okay, we're kind of getting into a slight slightly in the way territory, so maybe we will do that. So that's the first thing I will do. All right, I'm going to eliminate this background noise. All right, let's capture a noise print here. And let's go into effects. Do a little noise reduction on this. So we'll select everything. Bring our cursor over here. Now, I've got the reduction set to 20. Let's go to the default 40. I'll set the spectral decay to around, let's do about 9. And let's see how far. Now, I might do less reduction, which means I can use a little bit more on the reduction slider here. So less dB, but more on the reduction slider. But let's take a listen first. Here we go. This is not where I want to be. Sing here. Okay. Nice. And the main thing I'm listening for here is if I'm getting any weird phasing or any kind of, unwanted artifacts or weird resonance, and that doesn't appear to be the case. And now when we take a look at this, it's like, oh, yeah, wow, look at that, nice and clean. Now again, part of why we're not getting any weird artifacting and resonance is because the profile that I took was below 250 hertz. So all that kind of mid-rangey stuff, which tends to get kind of can get messed up with noise reduction if you're not careful. I'm not touching any of those ranges, so it didn't affect anything there, and it sounds really nice. And as I've said many times before, it's really interesting, if you're a singer and you want to kind of study or kind of better understand how it all works. You can see in sections here when I really lock onto a note, when I'm using vibrato, when things are just perfectly, wonderfully straight and in tune. And of course, it's not necessarily, you can see as I zoom in more, it's not a perfect straight line. It's a little bit of wiggles in there, of course. But it's very cool to see. It's very cool to see and really sort of understand. And don't forget that you can also change this into note values. So you can say, oh, I see what note you're singing right there. All right, kind of zoom in right here and go, oh, I see. Okay, it's a C4. That makes sense. So pretty cool. All right. So now that we've done that across all of these, all right. Very good. Now that we've done that, I'm going to save this. And I'll save it as an alternate version of the file. I always like to keep the originals, okay? So we'll call this 2A_NR. Or maybe just 2NR. All right. And then I'll just know it's the noise reduction version of it. All right, and we'll go to the same file here. Now, I don't even need to take another profile. I can just go into noise reduction. I'll use the same settings, select everything, and apply it. Okay, it's the same profile. They were all recorded at the same time, same mic, same position, same everything. This is why I can do that, right? I don't need to take another profile. Now let me just mute real fast. I want to just verify on this file too, and just take a listen in here if there's anything weird in there that I don't want. All right, bear with me here for a second. We're gonna go on mute. Okay, same thing here. So we're going to go ahead and save this. _NR. All right, clean all these things up. Now technically, now that I've just thought about that, I could really batch these, but I do want to listen. Now see this looks a little different. Oh, what's going on there? Oh, that's weird. Huh. Look at that. That looks different. Slightly different profile there. I wonder, I must have kicked in a drive or something or done something. All right, that one looks the same. Let's take a look here. That one looks a little different too. Interesting. What do you know? Okay. Maybe I took a break and came back. Yeah, because this one is decidedly different. We're not going to use that same profile there. This one looks okay. Let's go ahead and run it on this. All right. Rum big old rum. All right, save that. Underscore NR. And I was just going to say, you know, I could batch these, but now some of these might need more individual treatments. So, you know, I'm not as keen as batching. I'm not as keen on batching. Easy for me to say. Now here, this is interesting too. So, like, if you take a look down here, let me make this bigger. And is this the bass one? Now see, there's all this stuff like at 55 hertz down here. Which, you know, if you're looking here, it's registering. So there's sound, but there's not a lot, but there's not. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing intelligible. So based on that, I'm just going to take it out entirely. Boom, cut, delete, right? Got all this subsonic stuff, which can mess up a compressor. But you'll see it won't affect... Doesn't affect the actual sound of the voice whatsoever. So that's a good thing right there, because ultimately some of that weird low end, yeah, I don't know what was going on there. Okay, and now here, this one, this looks also a little different. Doesn't look exactly the same. So let me see, how many of these do we have in here? Just these two. We'll do these individually. Let's go to this one. Okay. Well, this one I'm singing a lot. What am I doing here? A little shaky again. Okay, yeah, this one looks fairly like the first profile. So let's go ahead and we'll do this. Okay, select everything. Apply. Okay, just took out some of that low mid nonsense. Now this is another case where I can see this down below. None of this needs to be there. Now, just to show you, because those notes actually look okay, but if I were to go into something like pitch correction here, let's see if there's enough. If I went to chromatic, see what that sounds like. See? And it's very subtle with an attack of 6 and a sensitivity of 121 here. Because it is basically, it's in tune. I mean, you can visually see it. Again, there's a little bit of warble here. The correction is very subtle. It's also not kicking in super fast. So, and it doesn't have to adjust very much. You can see the number of cents that it was correcting there. So if I wanted to do that as well, and maybe I will. You know, not saying that I won't necessarily. You know, again, that too, for a remix, would change the sound. No reason I can't make this a little more, you know, a little more sort of modern in the sense that it's got sort of modern vocal processing on it. That's legit. And that's a very commonly encountered thing in remixing anyway. All right, let's take a listen to this one here. This looks okay. You can see the little ramp up right here. Is it weird that I can read the notes spectrally? My buddy Fred Fung was like, dude, you need to get out more. I know. You're right. Okay. So again, now this stuff at the like, you know, it's not problematic. And what I suspect, it sounds like me tapping actually, and it could be a little bleed from the headphones. Let's get rid of that. Don't need it. Okay. So we're gonna save as again. All right. And R. Back to our multi-track here. Number 3. This is that same one. Again, I don't, that must have, you can see I did these, you know, when they were done at different times. Let's apply this one here. Now this is all the bass notes. Now, weird. Okay, so I'm getting a different... This one has a totally... a lot of background noise. It's not even background noise, it's bleed from the headphones. So I'm going to have to treat that one separately. And I think this one too. No, this one I already saved. Okay. So let's go ahead and just finish these. I want to make sure I got this one. Okay, that's good. Got this. This one has not been fixed. Okay. This one has not been fixed. Let's do this. Select all. And apply. So let's hear what this one is. Again, so we got high frequencies here. Let's get just right below that first fundamental. Right about there. And just zap it out. Don't need any of that nonsense in there. Look at that. I read by pictures. Or I sing by pictures, rather. Okay, so let's see. We've got one more here. And this one... Yeah, this is minimal, but that's okay. I'll use the same noise reduction. Again, it's not super aggressive, and the profile is confined to such a limited frequency range that I'm not concerned, you know. And here, there's nothing in that low end. Oh, but it's a very high section as well. So again, don't need all this in there anyway. No reason to leave it. Maybe this time I'll just attenuate it. Let's just bring it down like 30 dB. Okay, so you can see still little bits. But these are not where these, let's see if I go to 96. Yeah, this is barely getting to like minus 80 there. So we've got no worries whatsoever. All right, underscore and R. Okay, so we've got just a few more. So all these vocals are in mono. Yes, they are. These are all single track mono vocals. Okay, so let me just verify that I've fixed all but, I think, 1 or 2. Because we'll take new profiles for the rest. Now, just to... okay, yeah, so we need to do this one. Number 9 and number 8. Yes, okay. 6 is good. Yep, I can see it there. 3 is good. 2 is good. 4 is good. 7 I know we need to do. Yeah, totally. Wow, look at that. I wonder what... Something else got in there. 17 is good. 11 is good. And 18 needs it as well. Okay. So let's do this one first. Would you do the lead vocal in mono as well? Yeah, so, you know, the lead vocals typically, because, you know, again, I say typically. It entirely depends on how many lead vocals there are. So in the case of this track, in this particular song, everything was recorded live, and the vocal was sung live as I was playing the piano. I never overdubbed a second one. I liked the lead vocal. So that will be mono because it's just the one. However, it's going in a stereo reverb, so the echo, the reverberation, now I'm confused, are either of those even words? The reverb, the reverberation, is in stereo. So so it's singular voice, but echoing in a stereo left and right environment, right? I could also put it in a mono echo, mono reverb, mono chamber. That's I showed that last week, right, when I was using some of those Abbey Road studio plates in mono. It's amazing. It's super amazing. And then it's not echoing. It doesn't have a stereo image. It's really all the sound is kind of in the middle, and you just kind of get this. You get this Z space depth when you mix in mono. Very tricky, very hard to do. Beautiful, lush, amazing. For this, though, the problem is if you do all your vocals in mono and use mono reverbs, it's not gonna sound modern. Just put it that way. And I talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago when I was mixing Fuzzy Island in this one particular song from the 20s. I wanted it to sound old school and kind of dark and creepy, mono reverb. This is new. This is modern. I don't want to sound dark and creepy here. I mean, I sound dark and creepy enough. So, we want to tailor it accordingly. But it'll be a mix. The existing track that's out there right now, yeah, just mono vocal, but with stereo reverb. And we're going to do a little bit of imaging here. So let's take a listen here. Let's see what the heck's going on. There's a garbage truck outside. See, it's not even fully consistent what was happening in here with this noise. What this is. Very interesting. Okay. So, in terms of taking a profile, you want to find something consistent. So like this little, whatever that is, I don't want to sample that. So this should be enough. Let's capture our new noise print. Go into noise reduction here. Select everything. And I'm just going to mute myself one more time so I can carefully listen. And I'm going to use the same settings here. It should be virtually transparent. In fact, screw it. I'm just going to apply it. I don't need to listen to it. Again, it's below 200. Actually, this one was a little bit higher. Below, 350. So let's listen now. I'll mute myself now and just hear if it did anything weird. As raw as meat. Okay? Sounds good. You might be thinking, this dude, is it in reality? No. I'm saying it sounds good in terms of there's no noise, nothing getting in the way. Now, additionally, just in terms of some of this low-end garbage, it just doesn't need to be there. So rather than just delete, because I'm feeling guilty about even showing that to you, that is very destructive, I'm just going to attenuate around 30 decibels. Okay, so save this as NR. GTG, good to go on that. All right, and let's go back up to this one here. This one looks like it's about the same profile. Oh, it would be. It was the same time. Okay, so we'll repeat. Let's go into noise reduction. Got that same profile. Let's apply it again. All right, now here, see, like, what is this? Let's sneak in there. What the heck is that? But this is also, these notes are higher. Kind of doing a bit of my, I must tell you, I always talk very frankly about music and my musical likes and dislikes. While I am not a particular fan of, like, doo-wop in general, most 50s pop music, save for Elvis, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Buddy Holly, and a select few others, save for like that, sort of rock and roll. I love those. Most other sort of 50s, early 60s, which is kind of like the, goody two-shoes kind of stuff. I can't take it. And the sort of, while I like Frankie Valli himself and some of his later stuff, sort of Four Seasons doo-woppy thing, it just drives me nuts. But singing that way, again, for blending, I do kind of like that. Okay, we are just going to take that out. I could feel that I was not holding the note well enough. So when you're not holding it perfectly, just add vibrato, and then you'll see. You can actually, what's interesting too, we'll just take a second here to discuss this. Get a little nerdness going on right now. So you can see I'm holding the note. Actually, now that we're zoomed in, it is, you can actually see it's a little bit on the rise. It's going a little bit sharp. I could feel myself going a little sharp. So I add vibrato, and then if you actually look at what would be the center of the vibrato right here, it's actually now like exactly in tune where I need it to be. So you're and finding the middle in the vibrato. Very interesting. Okay. Many of you may be looking at this going, what the heck is he talking about? All right, let's go ahead and save that. Was the dude using the leaf blow? No. Yeah, you believe, well, that you'd hear, right? We've denoised some of my landscaper antics before. That was not that. I mean, you can't really hear it. The amplitude is very low, but the thing is that we're going to be mixing these together, comping them together. There's 5 of them. So I don't want to leave, I don't want to leave stuff that could otherwise be sort of problematic, So this last one here, let's take one more noise print. Okay, go into noise reduction, select everything, apply it. All right. Nice. And you can hear here. You probably can't hear it. I'm hearing a bit of the room and the bleed of my headphones. That nice profile, look at that. It took out all of that garbage, and it took out a lot of the sort of boxy room mess that was here, right around 250, 300, 350. Right in this range, right down here. Oh, it's right towards, I see it's towards the edge of my camera. Zoom in for you more. Right there. So this stuff right here, this kind of boxy nastiness, it got rid of all of that. Now, one other thing that I will often do, by the way, we're cleaning up all these vocals before we remix them. I think, wow, he's wasting time. No. I'm doing a cleanup because, again, now that we're going to treat these and actually affect them differently, it makes sense to, like, we talked about top and tailing the other day, to kind of get rid of all this sort of stuff in the beginning, Like, I don't need any of that before I start singing, so I'm just going to fade it in. Right? And similarly, if we go to the end here, if we look spectrally, I can fade this out too. Right? So they're just like nice, clean, tight. This would be the equivalent of kind of using a noise gate at the beginning and end. I could also use a noise gate in between sections if I really wanted to, but this right here, I mean, that's my breathing right there, but there's not enough noise or anything present there that would make me go, I need to clean that up. It's drastic. It's fine. It's not in the way. Nothing I need to worry about. Okay. So this is all looking good now. All clean, nice. All right. And now, once again, when we listen to these all together.
If you are what you eat, from your head down to your feet, baby. Feed your face, you better take a minute and think about just what it is that you are putting in on, like a toot-toot monster. The toot-toot monster. The toot-toot monster.
All right. Sweet. Okay. And these are, again, this is now totally dry. There's not even any reverb on this right now. Here's with reverb. So I'm just going to kind of randomly pan these. Now, again, there's a method to this when you're doubling and such. I'm just doing this for right now just to kind of give you guys an idea. This is the bass one. I'll keep that towards the center. And I think this was a very high one, and we'll keep that, kind of stick that all the way on one channel over here. So now listen to this. All right, so this is the same This is the same thing, but now sort of just panned in stereo with that stereo reverb on there. And I'll even put it back into mono for you, even though it'll sound a little bit different summing now because the panning relationships are different. But just you'll hear what I'm talking about in terms of that wide open modern versus, a little darker, a little creepier, a little bit more retro. So here we are. In fact, here, let me start it in mono, all right? And take a listen. And now stereo. All right, so do you see the difference in here? This is a longer passage, so I can kind of go between stereo and mono. Here we go. Take a listen. First in stereo. Mono. Mono. Stereo. Mono. All right. It just really opens everything up. Not that you can't get dark and creepy in stereo too. Absolutely. But when you've got things in mono, you're kind of paving the way there. And it's really going to be very dependent. Oh, and there's 6 background vocals. Gee, I can count. 6 tracks of background vocals. Wow, did I fix all of them? No, I didn't fix this one. Did I leave? I left 2 out. Jeezy crazy. All right. Keen eye. I should be a detective. Oh, I fixed that one. Did I just miss this one down here? I guess I did. Okay. Fine. Be that way. Let me go ahead and fix this last one. I don't even really need to, but I'm going to. So let's go again. Let's find what appears to be a consistent section here. The Chipmunks. I learned, Magenta, that Chipmunky when I was talking to DJ Cutman a couple weeks ago. That kind of double speed chipmunky voice sound. You were just hearing it double speed rewinding, but that's kind of like hipster now to have those vocals. A lot of songs right now have that in them. I don't care for those, but it is definitely a thing. Okay, let me just take a listen. Now what is this? Oh, see? And this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. That was in there. So as we were playing this back just now, that stupid thing is in there. Now, a lot of that I may actually have, I may have already, using envelopes in the multitrack. Yeah, I think I probably did. I may have already taken that out. You can see I've got some fades on these already. Always, because right before you sing, you're okay, me, and then you go into it because I know that I'm going to fade it out or delete it or whatever afterwards. Still, since we're making an alternate version of this anyway, it's totally fine. Whoops. Yeah, I can get rid of that entirely. It's totally legit to just make that destructive change. We can always go back to the original, right? And since I'm saving it as an alternate file, no loss to me. All right, so save this as NR. And we are making some progress. So while I've spent this hour just kind of treating these, denoising them, the next step is really to EQ them. Now I can use the onboard EQ here if I want. To be honest, I might consider using something like one of the SSL third-party EQs, solely because there's also a compressor in there, right? And you can see, the dynamics are fairly even, but it doesn't hurt to kind of even them out even more. Now, as I've said many times, I've got various presets in here. Here's some from the Queens of Noise. I added some new ones recently. And I've been trying some of these. Some of them are great. Some of them, work really nicely. Again, it's always a decent way to kind of get started. There's some nice ones for background vocals, but they were all a little bright. And I want to keep this fairly warm. So back to that concept of, you know, creepy and dark versus kind of bright and present. So let's just like take a listen to this backing vocals one. I have no idea what this is going to sound like offhand. Having them nice and warm also allows you to offset them with a kind of brighter, more present lead vocal. You want the vocal to sit on top of the backgrounds, but you also want to leave enough air so that you're kind of getting that ah. I really want that ah, the ah. I want you to feel the ah. You got to feel that breath, which I wouldn't actually want to feel physically. But you know what I mean. You kind of, you want to get to have your ears kind of get that tingly feeling. You want to lift above 10 or 12K there. Let's see what this preset sounds like. Oh, and here I'll kill the Now it's being compressed heavily here. You can see it was like 14 dB of gain reduction there without any makeup gain, right? That's why it's so much quieter. So if nothing else, just to see that this is kind of in the same, that this is being compressed properly, I need to readjust this. Now this has got a ratio of 8:1. That's pretty extreme. I mean, the dynamics on this aren't that wide to begin with, and it's a fairly slow-paced background vocal. So I'd probably back this off to around 6. Color-wise, however, you can see it's got a high-pass filter at 115. So everything below 115 hertz totally rolled off, which is okay for this. They've got, again, look at that, 4 dB at, what did I say? This is 13 here. So again, there's that 12 to 14K, that nice little shimmer top. We got that in there. Pulling out a little bit, it appears at 1.4K. That's going to be your mid-range, maybe a little bit of that kind of nasally. This is just the preset, but it just happens to work. That's what I would have gone right to. And then to give you a little bit more kind of that natural warmth there, you got some 2.5 dB at 0.85, and then they got nothing boosted here. You might even give it a little bit at 150 if it were sounding kind of thin, but it sounds fine to me. We just need to readjust the compression. So let's go to 6, compression ratio of 6:1. All right. So now we're not compressing as much. And let's listen. So these should be the same in and out, meaning that the compressor is working properly. When I turn this on or off, there really shouldn't be any perceivable volume or loudness difference. Perfect. And you can hear there, the only difference is when I kick the EQ compressor in, it's a little cleaner, it's a little bit more open. If I wanted to give it even more, all right, a little bit more air, I might even drop this down. Nice. Not bad. Okay. So what I can do is I can actually save this, and we can call this TTM BGV mid 01. Okay. And now this is a preset that I can recall for some of the others, right? And for the ones that are kind of in the same range, or the double of this. Now, did I actually double this? Okay, so there's the double right there. All right. So this is what I was talking about before. 2 separate takes doubled. Not even perfectly doubled, I might. Sounding a little out there. That's okay. Let's go ahead and grab this again. Go into my effect, SSL mono. Load up my TTM BGV mid. All right, now these are currently, this is 1 and 5, so I've got this left and right. So for doubles, just in terms of stereo balancing, to make things sound wider, you want to pan the double. It can be extreme, like in my song Retouch Me, available now on Spotify. I've got a doubled vocal, hard panned left and right. For backgrounds, maybe I'll even go to 50. You could do the same, and you'll see what I mean here. It just really opens things up very, very nicely. So let's turn this on. I've got the same EQ on both. Let's turn on a bit of that ambient reverb here. Let's take a listen to this. Okay. Back this one off too.
You're tooting like crazy.
In this channel, it's a little bit hotter, so I'm going to back this off. Now, I could also probably readjust the threshold right here. You can see this one's hotter. And I'm looking at the meters here because I was peaking moments ago. I'm not worried about this one. I was worried about the output here. All right, let's wind it. Nice. All right. So these are sounding really good. Now just bring in the other ones that are pre-EQ'd. By having them doubled like that, it's just going to give this impression. It's not going to sound, it still sounds like one voice, you know? And you notice when you add in all the harmonies, it really comes together. And that's where, as I said before, when you start messing around with the stereo and like some of the, now these are sort of the mid-range or the tonic backgrounds. As we get to the higher ones, I'll EQ them differently so that there's more air, slightly different color. That's going to change that stereo image too. This is still sounding very warm, and there's a lot of, admittedly, there's a lot of reverb on there. Just dry. You know, you can hear there's more, already you can hear just more presence, and you're kind of getting that, some of the nicer glottal type sounds in there. Where the reverb was kind of, you know, I've got it pretty heavily processed. Again, it was a 5 second decay with about 33% wet. And notice I actually readjusted the balances here. I was talking about this last week. A lot of times I'll do 100% dry and then adjust the wet, maintaining that same dry signal at the same volume. Here, I've actually balanced it out a bit more so that the vocals are, it's like they're taking a bath in the reverb, you know. And we can obviously balance that more so. It's a little bit heavy for my taste right now. But that's okay. I'll leave it there for the moment. Let me go ahead and save this while I'm at it. Call this 9A, As You Do. Now this could be another part of this remix too. I could overdub new drums on that if I wanted to, right? I'm not going to, but I could. Not uncommon. One-handed, you know. All right. Okay, I think that's a fine place to stop for the moment. Thank you so much for joining me for this Audio 101 Part 15, The Art of the Remix, focusing a little bit on background vocals, and see you in just a few moments, so stick around.